Samurai 8, Chapter 7, Meeting. So this was a great chapter. I had a lot of fun with this one, and it's giving me more faith in the future of the series, especially the ending of this chapter. But other than that, let's get into it. So the chapter opens up with Daruma further explaining the dynamic between Samurai and Princess, and he more or less says that it comes down to fate. I mean, he literally says because of the heavens or some sort of absolute force. Did you not know? And it doesn't even seem like Daruma is even really aware of why Samurai and Princesses are fated to be together, because he doesn't have like a concrete answer to it. So maybe there isn't a concrete answer, and maybe this is more so like a tradition that was created by the gods, not like the omnipotent gods, you know, like in religion. I'm talking more so like Akala and whatever his contemporaries are. Like, I don't think Akala is like the god of existence. I don't think he created the universe. I more so think he's probably like a Hagoromo, Otsutsuki type character, maybe a Kaguya type one, like basically like the highest form of existence in this world, but not so the creator, if that makes sense. But also, when we see Hachimaru start scratching when he's hearing this, I assume this is because he's anxious, knowing that he doesn't really have a choice in what happens, because that's also what Daruma says. It's something predetermined and inevitable, bound to happen regardless of your will. And when I read that, I was like, man, if that's true, that's kind of lame. If like you can't even change your destiny and you're just fated to do whatever just because it's been predetermined that way. And I'm getting the assumption that Hachimaru feels the same way. So I hope that we eventually get to the point into the story of where Hachimaru like breaks down the barriers of this so-called fate, and it's like, I'm going to choose my own fate, you know, because that's typically like a trope within shonen, you know. It's like, I'm not bound by what's expected of me. I'm going to break down these walls, and I'm going to, you know, change things for the better. So then it cuts back to District 7 of the castle town, the place that we visited in Chapter 2, you know, where Hachimaru and Nanashi cut the tank in half, and we see that tank that was cut in half, and it's being examined by those two guys that we saw in the beginning of that Chapter 2. The one with the black holder and the big boar-looking one. So I like these guys, and I liked them originally, but I was unsure of, you know, what they were about. And I'm pleasantly surprised to see that they are not villains, because I was going to get disheartened if these guys turned out to be villains, especially like the characters that we met in the previous chapter, the ones that I likened to like the Gotai 13, you know, the Princess Sahime and the samurai dude beneath her. I thought maybe they were going to be villains too, but I'm glad that they're not, because I really didn't want it to be like essentially the world against Hachimaru and Daruma, and they only had like a handful of allies. It seems like it's going to be more balanced here. I mean, in fact, we've, I guess, met more allies than villains at this point. But anyway, it turns out the guy with the top knot's name is Hagamichi, and he is confirmed to be a samurai, which I was unsure of in the previous chapters. He even has his own princess with him, who we meet in this chapter as well, by the name of Ooin, however you say that name, O-O-I-N, difficult to pronounce for me at least. And then we see that he is aware that whoever cut the tank in half with a dull blade is extremely skilled, and he's trying to find out more about, you know, Hachimaru. So he goes to the princess, and she reveals that she could just straight up talk or communicate with that mega princess, I'll say, Sahime or Sa, that we met in the previous chapter. And like I said before, I like that they are not villains, or at least it's revealed that they're not villains so far. And I like that this is all connected so far. It seems like it's not as branched out as what I originally thought it was going to be, but, you know, this is Chapter 7 after all. So we're getting like two big pieces of information from this sequence where Ooin communicates with Princess Sa. So first of all, we're finding out that the powerful samurai dude that I thought was Takasuna in the previous chapter, which I'm completely wrong about, but I'll get into that later, his name is Mujin. And we're also finding out that the locker ball that originally belonged to Anne was in fact stolen, or at least we can assume it was stolen by Ronin in the first chapter, because that's the locker ball that was used on Hachimaru. So now that Anne is connected to Hachimaru, it all makes sense that it has to be the locker ball that Ronin stole. And it seems like they don't even know that it was stolen. They just think that Anne lost it, but us reading it can kind of connect the dots and see that he did in fact take it. Why did he take it? We don't know. The motives of Ronin weren't really clear. He kind of just seemed like an a-hole, really, with, I don't know, just trying to force people into becoming samurais for some reason. Maybe there was a larger motive to it, and I do think that this character is going to come back because, like, as we saw in, I think, Chapter 5, that Hachimaru's dad stored his soul along with his ki. So I guess that means that he could come back because, like I theorized before, that you could just insert the key into a vessel, kind of like a hard drive. So if you get like another locker ball or something like that, that means Ronin will likely come back. So Princess Sa then connects the dots and tells Hagamichi to take Anne in order to go find Hachimaru because, like we established, he used her locker ball, so naturally she is going to, as they say, have an affinity for him. So, and it's actually a strong affinity. So she's going to be able to find him no matter where he is, I suppose, and that's exactly what they do. And we see Hagamichi's, his black wolf holder in its flight mode, and this is definitely one of the cooler holders we have seen so far in the series, but nothing like what we're going to get into at the end, and like I said, I'll get into that. I can't wait to talk about that dude. But aside from that, we see Hachimaru still working on establishing his soul sword. He still can't quite get it right, and hey, take your time with this. I'm fine. I don't want Hachimaru to rush his power-ups or anything, because it seems like the soul sword is a very significant power to have because he's already super deadly with a blunt katana, so I imagine that he can really wreck things once he gets the handle of this soul sword. It seems to be like the Zanpakuto of this world, so I'm sure it could do some serious damage. But then he winds up getting frustrated and just tries to skip to cultivating armor from Hayataro, but of course that doesn't work out for him, and he winds up making like this armor eggshell thing around him. He's basically trying to duplicate what we saw of Daruma and Ronin in the earlier chapters, but yeah, of course he's not far enough into his training to get anywhere near that. But then conveniently Hagamichi and Anne show up because, like I said, Anne has like this built-in GPS for Hachimaru, and I assume that all princesses have the same thing for any samurai that has used their locker ball in order to become a said samurai. So after Hagamichi introduces himself to Daruma, we're finding out more about him. So we're seeing that he is a warrior captain from the Akagi Castle, and that he is, of course, using the Yasha style, which we also found out in Chapter 2 when we first saw the Akagi Castle, because it was, like, written on the front of it that it was, like, the Yasha style dojo. And, of course, we know that Daruma is a user of the Yasha style. He's actually the #1 pupil of Yasha, so this is all connecting, and they are definitely allies here since they're kind of using the same thing. And Daruma, once he identifies his voice, he's like, oh, you're Hagamichi the Black Wolf. And of course we can assume that he's the Black Wolf because of his holder, his sweet holder. But then it's like, okay, you're cool, we're cool. But unfortunately, they're not able to get down to brass tacks immediately and start having a huge expositional conversation, which I assume we're going to get in the next chapter, because I'm assuming that Hagamichi is going to start explaining who the Gotai 13 are, you know, Princess Sahime and Mugen and all the dudes, and how that whole hierarchy works, because we don't really understand that yet, and I guess this meeting here is going to establish that. But it's also establishing the meeting between Hachimaru and Anne, which is a nice little meet cute here. I'm glad that it's not happening too far into the story and we're just getting it out of the way here. And of course, as we assumed, it was going to be like this awkward encounter, because every time we see Anne talk, her speech kind of has like a weird affectation to it. So I guess she's like kind of stuttering and has just like a nervous kind of speech to her. But then as soon as Hachimaru realizes that she is in fact his princess, we cut to the final 2 pages of this chapter, and this is where I got super hyped, and so much is kind of being revealed here without much being said. So of course we're seeing this dude, and he's talking to this woman, and it's like the 8th child has finally been found. The rest is up to you, Ata. Can you bring it back? And he's like, you don't mind if I bring back pieces, right? So the 8th child, of course, is Hachimaru, and this dude, okay, Ata, who I guess is his name, is for sure the guy that we saw in Chapter 4 in Hachimaru's dad's flashback, when he's like, I'll get you, I'll find you. So this is kind of dispelling my theory that I had in the previous chapter, because I thought Mugen might have been that guy because they had similar eyes, you know, like the one eye was kind of like down and milky and the other guy eye was normal, but I guess that's just a common feat of samurais, or I don't know. It really remains to be seen. But this guy for sure is that dude. He has the same exact skin tone, the same mask, and the same hair, and the same eye. Go back and look at it for yourself. Chapter 4, I think it's towards the end of the chapter, right before Daruma draws the line in the grass. So a lot of interesting things here. So this guy has 4 friggin' katanas, and he has 5 samurai souls floating around him. So the only other instance we've seen of this is from Mugen. He had multiple samurai souls around him. And also we saw it of Yasha in the first chapter. So I'm assuming this is indicative of like a super friggin' powerful character. Like if you have multiple samurai souls floating around you, you are crazy powerful, because just one samurai soul can become that Zanpakuto that we were talking about. But I'm assuming that you can use all of these samurai souls at once if need be, and they probably can all become different, like weapons. Maybe one could become like a laser beam gun, or, you know, because we know that the samurais aren't bound to just swords or bladed weapons. They can make guns and stuff, or maybe the souls can become shields and other things too. But I also assume that in order to get multiple souls, you need to kill other samurais and take them. That remains to be seen, of course, but I just assume that's how it is. Unless you become more powerful, you can, like, form another soul. Like, it's kind of like a power-up. Every time you level up or something, you gain another soul. Like I said, it remains to be seen. There's so many theories, but another really interesting thing here is that I thought that this guy might have been Takasuna. And if anyone's curious where I'm getting the name Takasuna from, it's said by Ronin in the first chapter when he pulls the soul out of Hachimaru. He's like, oh, this is Takasuna's soul. It's red. I guess that's why they call it the vampire. So I thought that maybe this guy is Takasuna, because we know that Hachimaru's dad was storing the soul inside of Hachimaru as like a secret. He was kind of using Hachimaru as like a safe for it. And then we get the flashback of the dude like, I'll find you, which leads me to believe that he stole the soul from this dude and stored it in Hachimaru. So either that this was his soul, like the soul that he was born with when he became a samurai, meaning that he is Takasuna, and I guess his first name is Atta, meaning his name is like Atta Takasuna, or it was just one of the souls that he had. Like, maybe instead of 5 souls on his back, he had 6, and the vampire soul was the 6th one. Of course, it remains to be seen, but let's go into the other stuff that this guy has. So he has a dragon holder, which is awesome, and I was, speculating before that we were going to see all kind of different holders, really cool ones throughout the series. Like we saw the Cyclopses, we saw the Sea Turtle one. Of course, we've seen the Hayataro and the wolf type ones, and then we saw the gigantic spaceship that Princess Hime is in. But now, this guy's got a friggin' dragon one, but it looks like he might have his princess, like, integrated into the holder. So maybe this is what happens to like the evil samurais. Like maybe this is like the Sith, like there's 2 ways you can go about being a powerful samurai. Like you can work together with your princess and just be 2 separate people that help each other, but you're both independent. Or you could just straight up make your princess fuse with your holder so that it only benefits you and she becomes kind of like this, I don't know, just this device and this tool for you rather than her own independent person. That's what it kind of seems like here. I'm going to assume that she is this guy's princess because I don't... but so much to speculate about this guy. I really like this guy. He is super cool and he seems like he's going to be the first major villain, or maybe even the major villain of the first part of this series possibly. Because I don't think he's going to be taken out soon because he just seems so ridiculously powerful that in order for Hachimaru or even Daruma to take this guy out, they're going to need to become significantly more powerful. Because I can tell you right now, it doesn't seem like Daruma is on this guy's level. Like, Daruma only has 1 samurai soul, and like I said, this guy has friggin' 5 of them, so I'm going to assume that he's like 5 levels above Daruma at least. But it all remains to be seen. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments. So much to talk about, so much to speculate. And if you liked the video, please give it a like. I also have a Patreon that gives you access to a weekly Q&A video. And if you haven't already, please subscribe as well. Have a great day, guys. See you in the next one.